The other thing that has been on my mind a bit, not as like a 5-alarm fire or anything, but have thought through. I know of a church in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that's pretty outspoken politically. In fact, I know of several of them. You probably do too.
Yeah.
I have felt myself getting cynical and probably judgmental to a certain degree of like, okay, is that a pastor's place? Is that the church's place to be outspoken about political issues or, not pop culture, but just political policy issues? Have you landed anywhere on what you think the appropriate role of a pastor, church body, believer in general? Like, what's the appropriate position? It's probably not stick your head in the sand.
Right.
But is it... So let me say this, and then I'll turn you loose. I'll put a bow on this. My thought has recently been that block of time on Sunday morning, let's say if your church meets on Sunday morning, is far too precious. Like the gospel is too big a deal and too great an announcement that if you really intend to proclaim that great news on a Sunday morning, why share that announcement with some other topic?
Yeah.
But some would say they're so closely linked, and by God, you got to talk about, the gospel's at stake here or whatever. How do you deal with that?
Well, I agree with you 100% that when you have an opportunity to preach the gospel, it should be priority.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get the gospel first,
Mm-hmm.
anything else you do is going to be, it won't be effective, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, politically, the political scene, government is a result of, corporate government is a result of personal government. If you don't have personal government, if you don't know how to control yourself, if you haven't got the right priorities at the top down the deal, then there's no way for you to do anything other than choose a party because it gives you a place to belong.
Yeah.
So I think it's the church's role to educate the people. We're the equipping agency of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ground and pillar of truth. Pillar of truth is what Paul said. Okay, so where is the government? Where is education? So where is all that going to get its truth? Should come from the church.
Yeah.
So it's important that we teach truth, but truth has to start with the gospel.
Yeah, that's good.
Of what has God done in Christ Jesus that changes me?
Mm-hmm.
It changed my world that I turned upside down. Instead of having control on top, I have service on top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That has to be. And if you only got 30 minutes a week with your people, preach that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you see that and it changes you,
that will inform your approach.
That will inform everything you do.
Yeah, that's good.
And when you talk to your kids or your wife or your community, whatever, that's going to inform your values that you will emphasize.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't see that, then you will become just partisan.
Mm-hmm.
Because there will be certain things that are important to you, and you wind up letting policy be the issue rather than love. So, I wish churches would take seriously the role of equipping.
Yeah.
If we do that, we're going to have more time than 30 minutes on Sunday where we sing a while,
right?
Do, maybe have rituals and stuff. There's going to have to be some breaking that down of, okay, here's how the gospel fits in these whole things. But I'd say if you only have an hour, as much as I hate abortion, don't talk about abortion. Talk about life.
Yeah.
Because if you get that right, if you see what God has done in Christ Jesus and the value that he placed on the human life by Jesus giving his life for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you see that, it will inform your doctrine of
Sure.
abortion
And beyond.
and everything else.
Yep. That's good.
And so I don't know if that helps.
That's helpful. Yeah. I mean, I've just been so dismayed, man, by maybe cynical, maybe dismayed, maybe all of it, but it just feels like, I mean, I know so many people who say that they profess faith in Christ and, the gospel is the single source of truth, whatever, the church. And they're so up in arms about what's going on politically and what's going on Fox News or what's going on CNN or whatever, on both sides of the thing. And it just feels like, it's like, come on, guys. Like, yes, those things are important. I'm not arguing that they're not important, but it feels like there's something much more important at stake here. And that is, like, are we and can we keep Christ at the center, the gospel message at the center? Because to your point, it informs all that other stuff. And I'm not saying it's just going to fix everything, but it
will fix everything ultimately. People sometimes criticize Jesus. Jesus didn't talk about homosexuality. He didn't talk about slavery. He didn't talk about women being mistreated. A lot of things he didn't talk about. Why? Because he knew that the gospel, once it works its way out, will.
Yeah. It's good.
I mean, if you plant that seed, it's going to come up and it's going to make the leaven's going to work its way through the lump, to use another metaphor.
Sure.
So yeah,
that's good. That's really helpful.
You see, we think that as you change the order of things by changing the people at the top. You don't. You got to change the values at the top. If control and money and success and power and all of that is at the top, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican or independent or whatever. I say it doesn't matter. One of them would more align with you than the other, but it's not going to change anything. Revolutions happen when you change. I mean, typically a revolution happens in the world when you change who's at the top. But 5 years later, look and see what's happening. That guy's got control. That guy's got the money. That guy's got the military. That guy's got the economy. That guy's got the media.
Right.
He's got his stuff so he can control the people. Same deal. So Jesus comes along with a whole new revolution and says, no, I'm at the top. I'm the king. And my kingdom, my values are going to look like me, my values.
That's good.
So that's why we got 4 gospels that tell us, how did Jesus live? What were his values? What does his kingdom look like?
So that's helpful. I like that.